How bold and brave of Merriam-Webster to change the definition of the phrase sexual preference because Amy Coney Barrett said the phrase. I'm not joking. That's the story from Fox News. Let me just read it for you, give you the context, and then we'll have a good old conversation about how nothing means nothing, nothing, anything, garbage, garbled, clown show, circus music. There's no definitions anymore. Words are meaningless, and you're a bigot, apparently. That's where we are. Beginning Wednesday, the fifth definition for sexual preference included the words offensive, because it wasn't offensive before, and they're lying to you. Merriam-Webster Dictionary changed its definition of sexual preference to include the word offensive as Democrats slammed Supreme Court nominee Judge Amy Coney Barrett for using the term during Tuesday's Senate confirmation hearings. Prior to Tuesday, the fifth definition listed for preference referred to orientation, as in sexual preference. But as of Wednesday, the fifth definition for preference included the word offensive when used to describe sexual orientation. Steve Krakauer says, as recently as last month, Merriam-Webster included a definition of preference as orientation. Today, they changed it and added the word offensive. Insane. I just checked through Wayback Machine and it's real. Quote, our scheduled updates, which add new words and also add new definitions, usage guidance, and example sentences to existing dictionary entries, take place several times per year. From time to time, we release one or some of these scheduled changes early. When a word or set of words is getting extra attention, and it would seem timely to share that update, Peter Sokolowski, Merriam-Webster's editor-at-large, explained in a statement to Fox News. In this case, we released the update for preference when we noticed that the entries for preference and sexual preference were being consulted in connection with the SCOTUS hearings. A revision made in response to an entry's increased attention differs only in celerity, as always. All revisions reflect evidence of use. No, they don't. This is a lie. On Tuesday, Senator Mazie Hirono slammed Barrett for saying she would not discriminate on the basis of sexual preference, saying that preference is an outdated and offensive term. It is used by anti-LGBT. Oh, shut up. I'm not reading any more of this. Sexual orientation is a key part of a person's identity. I had a conversation earlier on Twitter with this leftist, and I said, essentially and politely, I respect your explanation of the word preference. And I personally actually do take offense to the phrase orientation. I completely mean it. I literally take offense to the phrase sexual orientation because orientation is not a Latin word. Orient is a Latin word. I did talk about this a little bit, but I'll go through this. And I want to show you what Glenn Greenwald and some others had to say. Matt Taibbi, for instance, actual liberals. Listen, orient is the Latin word meaning rising from the east. And I believe Occident is rising from the west. So in European cultures, they referred to Asia as the Orient, where the sun rises in the east, the land of the rising sun, etc. However, over time, it came to reference stereotypes. Now, listen, what I take offense to, not that anyone cares, is that they can just arbitrarily change definitions like that. And I said, okay, well, hold on. Preference doesn't literally mean choice. Like, I prefer, strawberry ice cream over, say, vanilla ice cream. I didn't just choose to feel that way. I just actually was like, I like this better. I'll tell you what. I do not like cilantro. I prefer my guacamole without cilantro. It's not a choice. I detest cilantro. Make it all illegal. I'm kidding, by the way. I don't like it. It's just how I am. So they decided to change the word to orientation. Now, what makes me sort of angry is that not that I care about the origin of the word's orientation, but that they don't. That they look me in the eyes and say, we don't want to use this word because of the potential ramifications for what it may mean. Okay, well, what about the potential ramifications for what orientation means? At least when the word orientation is said, you can understand orient is in it. And the stereotypical use of it, not its Latin root, because there are other words that are rooted in Latin that I can't say, notably the word for a bundle of sticks. I'm not going to say the word because it's offensive, right? So they get to arbitrarily decide, you are not allowed to say this word. And my response is, okay, well, then how about some reciprocity? Please choose a different phrase to represent this, because I think if you're being honest, we can look to the connotations of the word orient. And they say, F you. I'm not interested in playing this game. It's all lies. This phrase is not offensive to anybody. Shut up. These people are despicable. Now check it out. We got this fun tweet thread from Matt Taibbi. And the reason I'm highlighting this in reference to this is because I want to show you what real liberals say. And I'm using liberal in the colloquial sense, meaning people who used to be on the left probably aren't anymore. Steve Krakauer's tweet saying they changed the definition. Matt Taibbi, formerly of Rolling Stone, I don't know if he's still there or not, said, "The ministry of truth in action," to which Glenn Greenwald responded, "reminds me of that time when I spent years hearing from Democrats that Obama and Clinton's overt opposition to same-sex marriage was misguided but benign, justifiable and understandable. And then the minute he evolved, opposition to same-sex marriage was proof of malicious bigotry." I love this part. Somebody responds to Glenn Greenwald. This is Dr. Ned. He tweets, "Matt doesn't get to shame me for what I find offensive. The term has a history of being used to justify all sorts of repressive nonsense for people who grew up in conservative Christian households. Senator Harana was wrong in the first instance, not the second." Glenn says, so Senator Harana was allowed to opine on whether preference is offensive, but Matt's prohibited? Why is she allowed, but he is not? What do you think of all of this? I'm going to stop right there. I'm pretty sure Glenn Greenwald is a gay married man. I don't know if he's married, but I know he's a gay man. I'm pretty sure he's allowed to opine on whether or not he finds the phrase offensive. I don't know if this other guy, Dr. Ned, is. Maybe he's gay too. And, apparently those are the rules. Dr. Ned says, Senator Hirono recognizing it is an offensive term, especially as historically wielded by conservative Christians, is different than recognizing the offensive nature of this term is thought police. Glenn Greenwald responded, so straight people are allowed to weigh in on these questions as long as the opinion they're expressing is the same as yours. Otherwise, it's inappropriate. Of course, it's how it works. Also, are you saying it's okay for Dems to use this term like they did in that video, but not Amy Coney Barrett? He said a straight person can recognize a term as offensive and tell their friends about it. Matt isn't opining on its offensive nature. He is saying recognizing its offensive nature is Orwellian. If he said, I don't think it's offensive because that is the difference. Glenn Greenwald said, having a dictionary change the definition of terms to accommodate the daily view of Democratic politicians, and you're decreeing that it's okay for your political allies to use a term but not your adversaries, is kind of the very crux of what Orwellian means in this context. Oh, standing ovation. My word, Glenn Greenwald. Absolutely hit the nail on the head with the hammer so hard the nail went straight through the wood and flew into the ground 20 feet. Bam. That's Orwellian. When I got into a discussion with this person saying, how about a little reciprocity? I don't like that you would use a derivative of Orient to protect yourself when you're offended. Because what about me? Don't I get say in what I find offensive too? No, because you're not arguing in good faith. Neither are you, you duplicitous cronies. But I'll tell you what, I did not approach you saying that you were not arguing good faith. I said, okay, I hear what you have to say. Let's play a game called reciprocity and cooperation. Personally, I think Orient is offensive. I think that you overlooking the history and the root of the word is offensive. So how about I agree not to use the phrase preference and you agree not to use the phrase orientation, and we'll agree upon something that is good for everyone. Doesn't work that way, does it? And I started to realize upon seeing this is proof. The problem is the left and not the right. You know why? You see that graph I tweeted about and PragerU posted about from Pew showing that the Democrats are moving left and the right is only moving a little bit to the right? What that chart really shows is that Republicans are still negotiating a little bit less than they used to, but that Democrats are refusing. It's consistently liberal versus consistently Republican. It's mapping how often they actually work with each other and compromise. I see it here. I can tell you that white supremacists are bad. I can tell you Antifa is bad, and they're bad for different reasons, but they're both bad. The left can't do that. The left won't cooperate. The left won't negotiate. And that's it. That's what you get. Now, I love it. Republicans won the presidency and the Senate And that's their victory for them. Congratulations. You've lost the culture war. That's what Jesse Kelly was saying, if you guys know Jesse. I'll tell you what, man, when the dictionary just changed the definition on the whims of some angry senators, there it is. I'll tell you what, I get 100 million views per month plus. I'm not saying to brag. I'm saying that to reference. If I can get that kind of viewership and tell you the word orientation is offensive, let me explain why. Orientation is not Latin. Orient is Latin. Orientation derives from a 19th century use of Orient, referencing Asia, at a time when the stereotypes of Asia was savage and weak. I don't care too much. I'm not going to think about it. The issue is, if I don't like it and I tell you, then by your rules and logic, we will not use the phrase. But they've told me to shove it. You'd think with a certain level of influence, I could say to people, do you agree or not? And then the people who watch me might say, we agree. Therefore, a large enough group of people have said, we've heard this, we understand it. I'm not trying to to boast about my viewership. What I'm trying to say is, how is it that the tribe of the left can arbitrarily change definitions like that? But when I say, please don't insult me by using that word, they tell me to go F myself. You see, that's why the game is broken. Because my response was, I agree. Thank you for explaining it. I will no longer use the phrase. I'd like to point out it's also offensive to me when you use this phrase. And they say, shut up. Shut up. Okay, then why would I bother negotiating with you or cooperating in any way? I'm not. So I tried. The problem is the left. End of story. I got one more segment in a few minutes. Stick around and I will see you all shortly.